Greetings everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm your host Captain Rye, and today's video comes to us courtesy of Lloyd JT, who is playing in the Tier 9 French Baguette, the St. Louis. Not to be confused with the American Tier 3 St. Louis, which is effectively a floating fortress of guns. No, the French St. Louis at Tier 9 is a heavy cruiser with very good firepower and a high top speed for a cruiser. As you can see there, with the consumables, there is an engine speed boost. As the battle gets underway here, it's the Fire Islands map, and it's Domination Match Mode. It is obviously a Tier 9 game, as you can see that Pensacola passing in front of the screen now. That being said, Lloyd JT is in a top-tier cruiser. But just because you're in a top-tier ship does not mean you don't have your work cut out for you in a battle. Especially if you're in a cruiser, you do have to be careful when you have enemy battleships floating around out there. Now, Lloyd's team has heavily concentrated at the C cap point, at the Charlie cap point. They were, and still are, in the process of going after the B cap point, but you can see there all of those aircraft swarming the area. They have one lone destroyer sitting in that cap who's capping, but it looks like the enemy team has put one of their two destroyers into that cap. Now, Matchmaker has blessed Lloyd with the balance of equal number of destroyers, so at the very least there is that. But this is going to be one hell of a hard fight, considering their team has concentrated so heavily here at the C cap point. This could almost be argued as a lemming train here. The only question is whether or not they can pull it off. Sometimes these things do work if the team can come together and push up together. But as you can see there, one of their friendly destroyers, very low health, and they have already lost one of their cruisers. Now, that low health destroyer is a Kiev. That's not good for him, and the Pensacola just took a massive hit. They've lost that Pensacola, so that's two ships they are now down. However, the enemy team hasn't managed to secure a cap point yet, and from the looks of it, nobody's actually gone to the A cap point. And if I were that friendly destroyer over at the B cap point, I'd be bugging out and making a run for it. The good news here is that because the enemy team hasn't capped a location yet, because they're not even trying to, they aren't gaining points. Lloyd's team is gaining those points as they manage to take out one of the enemy destroyers. The bad news, of course, because they're down two cruisers, they are down on points comparatively speaking. But they can get that fixed reasonably quickly if they can take out some more ships. And given the amount of firepower that they've brought over to the Charlie cap point, if they can hold on to the Charlie cap point and concentrate down some of these enemy cruisers and battleships, they should be able to get themselves back in a points lead. Now, as previously mentioned, there are carriers in the game, and the carrier is going to come into play in a little bit here. Lloyd, being in a Tier 9 cruiser, or just a cruiser in general, does have the defensive fire ability on board his ship. I don't actually take this consumable on board my French battleships, or I'm sorry, my French cruisers there, for the simplest reasons that because of their speed boost ability and that maximum top speed with a hydroacoustic, it makes them excellent at hunting down destroyers. But that being said, in this particular case, this defensive fire consumable is going to be a factor in this battle. Now, the enemy team has managed to kill yet another ship. They've taken out one of their destroyers, so that's going to leave them even lower health. And you can see there, they are capping at sea. This is a bit of a problem. And of course, because we don't know who is capping at sea, we know it's a destroyer, but that destroyer has popped up here. So either somebody's gotten close enough or somebody has popped a radar. But take a look at this destroyer. He's popped his smokescreen, disappears into it. Lloyd manages to connect there, but he's basically just going to go ahead and blind fire into the smokescreen. See if he can hit, see if he can reset there. Now you notice shots coming in miss his ship, but his ship was active on a speed boost there, so he had a little bit extra speed. However, that speed boost ended, and his ship started slowing down. So I think if it had ended a few seconds sooner, Lloyd would probably have eaten a nice fat citadel from one of those battleships back in the distance there. His team is trying to regroup together, but they do have a lone cruiser that's pushing all the way around there, and I don't know what this cruiser is doing at this point. What they need to do is they do need to regroup here, and they need to pick a direction. More importantly, they need to pick a target to unanimously focus down at this point, since all of their firepower is currently concentrated. The good news here in this tactic of regrouping, especially with a bunch of cruisers in the vicinity, is that when that enemy carrier senses aircraft over here, all of these ships' combined firepower can cause some serious problems to the enemy planes. Now Lloyd is pushing up towards the B cap point here, as is the rest of his team, again with the exception of that one cruiser. They have managed to kill one of the battleships, so that's at the very least got the enemy team's points back down. It's got their points a little bit up there, but with the enemy holding the C capture, they are gaining those points again, and you can see that they've pushed into the B cap point. Now this is definitely a replay associated leg spike. So Lloyd, I am sorry that you had to experience such a massive leg spike, especially when sailing broadside on out in the open while you push up behind there. However, does manage to get away with it. Enemy aircraft coming in with his plane, pops his defensive fire, and now it may only be French AA, but just look at how the Tier 9 anti-aircraft starts shredding these planes. You do have to be careful, though. The CV may decide he's going to target you instead, and especially while you're dealing with all of these massive leg spikes there all at once, could have been a serious issue if the carrier had figured out that you were just going to continue to sail in a nice straight line. But with the defensive fire active, even if you're experiencing a leg spike there, the good news is those planes, if they did try to drop, would be panicked and scattered. Now Lloyd has switched over to his armor piercing as he pushes up here. He's got a Baltimore that's pushing up. He should be well aware that Lloyd is here, but look at this. His guns are pointed completely in the opposite direction, and he's broadside on. Watch how Lloyd manages to work this Baltimore over. He's already scored 2 citadels on the guy, and he's aiming right above the waterline to get these shots in there, and the Baltimore has actually managed to beach himself. So now the Baltimore is not only broadside on out in the open, but Lloyd is able to just effectively rip into him. That guy wasn't even aiming his guns in this direction. But Lloyd's work is not done. He has a much more significant problem to deal with, in the fact that he's got a Nagato in front of him. Now that Nagato's got 16-inch guns, and those 16-inch guns will easily over-penetrate through the bow of his cruiser and citadel. More importantly, while he's bow on to this Nagato, he's also got 2 other battleships at the C cap point who are pushing up. The good news is they managed to take out both of the enemy destroyers, while they still have one very low health destroyer of their own. And if somebody is paying attention, they can now go over to the C cap point and take it, or I'm sorry, the A cap point and take it without contention from the enemy. Lloyd managed to get a set of torpedoes off at that battleship, but I'm not entirely sure the torpedoes were necessary there at the very end, as that Nagato was basically burning down, and he seemed to have some serious problem connecting with his main battery on Lloyd's ship there. Lloyd switching back over to the armor piercing in anticipation of shooting at one of the cruisers that was pushing up. However, that cruiser managed to get himself killed, so he switches back over to the high explosive, and he's going to try and set this Iowa on fire. If there's one thing that the French cruisers are also particularly good at, especially the Henry at Tier 10 because it has such large guns, that is setting fires. And we all know battleships love being barbecued. At this point, Lloyd's team is just behind on points, and they're only just behind on points because they've only recently regained one of the caps. But again, the A cap point is wide open. There's nobody back over there to contest it. Lloyd pops his defensive fire again to help protect this friendly Iowa. He's just inside his zone of influence there, so that Iowa, as you can see, is going to be able to avoid most of the crippling damage as he basically torpedo beats there. It takes 1 torpedo and a couple of bomb hits, something that battleship can easily do. And if you're paying attention to the minimap, there is one battleship that has pushed back over to the A cap point, but you see he's turned broadside to try and get shots off. I don't know why he's not just pushing straight in there and taking it. They really, really do need to grab that cap point, because this game is still anybody's game. It's still a tight game here, especially with that carrier pushing his aircraft out. He could cause a significant problem. You can see Lloyd's carrier is on the run back in the distance there. I don't really like it when carriers hide in the very back, as we're going to see here that enemy CV has actually pushed up and remained pretty close to his primary fleet. It's a gutsy move, especially if Lloyd's team had managed to make a breakthrough at the C cap point where they had a lot of their force. However, because they didn't, that enemy carrier was able to push up, and he's basically using all those islands as an opportunity to continue to move forward. Enemy Kutuzov up there in the Charlie cap point. Looks like he's stopped, slammed on his brakes there as you saw the torpedo lead indicator. So he either beached himself or he's completely stopped. I'm not sure if he's got a smoke screen up yet, but he will probably have it soon. That's what the Kutuzov is good for. But given the distance and his location, well, even if he pops his smoke screen, I think if he fires his guns, he's still going to be in range. Lloyd's getting shots off, trying to set fires on this enemy French battleship, of course, right after the French battleships launched here. Has himself broadside behind an island here. Unfortunately, that island is going to block pretty much all of his shots, and because of the position that he's put himself in, the shape of the island, he's left with having to take the long way around here and try not to run aground on the beach as he pushes up here. Can't quite make that turn, so he's going to have to go around the other smaller island there. The good news is this is going to put him in prime position to get some cross-firing shots onto those enemy ships. Additional good news, as you saw there, that Kutuzov looked like he was incredibly low health, and the Kutuzov Tier 8 Premium Cruiser does not have a heal, contrary to what everybody thinks. So if they're able to spot him again, they can finish him off. Again, the enemy team, like I said, is a very close game here as they're back in the points lead. However, even if both teams maintain their current ships, given the length of time left in this game, Lloyd's team will win because they have both the A and B cap points. So they're gaining points twice as quickly as the enemy team is at this point. And again, there's a very low health cruiser somewhere in this vicinity. And if Lloyd can spot him, hopefully they can take him out. There he is. Very low health. Lloyd gets his shots off there, but they're not going to reach the target in time. The Iowa paying very close attention, knowing that there was an enemy cruiser low health back there. So his guns were already pointed in the right direction. And with that cruiser gone now, the points lead once again shifts over to Lloyd's team. And again, though, it's anybody's game. They still have this French battleship, and this French battleship is going to do a reasonable job causing some serious problems for Lloyd's team. And because the friendly enemy ship, or the friendly battleship there, went all the way to the A cap point to take it, which he definitely needed to do, it's effectively put his guns out of the game there as the Iowa gets taken out by torpedoes from the carrier. Now the game is set up thusly. 2 enemy battleships versus a cruiser that's mostly full strength, still has his heals available. A battleship who is mostly full strength and still has his heals available. And the carrier. The question is, where is the carrier? And is that carrier going to cause some serious problems? The other problem, of course, being in a cruiser, is when you're facing battleships, even if they're not full health, they can absolutely wreck you. Now, Lloyd is detected here as he fires his guns. That enemy French battleship, he is not detected, so he's not doing the spotting here, and of course, it's the enemy CV. The Hiryu has popped up, so Lloyd switches over to his armor piercing because he's got a broadside shot, pops his defensive fire yet again. Does need to be careful, though, that he's not giving too much of a broadside. You don't want to give the torpedo planes, even if they're panicked, an opportunity to get you zeroed in there. Fortunately, though, with the panic, nice widespread, and the maneuverability of the French baguette does let Lloyd turn hard and torpedo beats. And because he was in the process of torpedo beating, he managed to dodge all of the shots fired from that enemy battleship, which probably saved this game for his team. Now, his team is back in the points lead again because they have 2 of the caps, so they're gaining those points faster. They can afford to lose one ship, provided that they lose no others. But really what needs to happen is Lloyd needs to take this Hiryu out. Now, Hiryu drops behind an island, so he's not going to be able to get the killing blow there. And he's broadside on to that French battleship. Takes a big hit there. That Citadel's going to cost him. Other enemy battleships bring in the heat, but you can see there it looks like most of his shots aren't quite connecting. Just bracketing him. Now, not sure of this decision exactly, but Lloyd has decided he's actually going to go ahead and try and chase this Hiryu down from the opposite side of the island instead of trying to cut him off. The Hiryu is a very fast ship, and I would say in nearly every other ship, cruiser or otherwise, this is not necessarily a good decision. I would have tried to cut him off, but because this is the French ship with its speed boost active, he's got the speed to catch this fast CV. Has his high explosive loaded because he expects that Hiryu to be basically stern onto him. Not going to try for the Citadels there. Does manage to set that carrier on fire. Can he finish him off? He does finish him off with guns. And with the CV dead, the remaining friendly battleship now no longer has to worry about air attack. That also means that it gives the friendly aircraft carrier free reign to do whatever he wants with his planes. Now, Lloyd isn't done playing the game. He's still got about half his health left, but he does have 2 battleships that are shooting at him. Earns his high caliber award here as more shots come in there. Manages to mostly avoid major hits from that battleship. Now, I would personally have fired off a set of torpedoes on the lead indicator towards that battleship for a very good reason, and that reason is effectively that guy is closing in. Now, the Battle of the Frenchies. Who will win here? That enemy French battleship has a lot of health and some very, very nasty guns. Lloyd's going to try and recover some health here. And again, this is one of those situations where I would be utilizing my torpedoes more effectively because we know this guy is right there and we know he's coming around the corner. I would turn my ship hard, I would use the island as cover, and I would get my port or starboard torpedoes away before pushing around the island. But Lloyd doesn't do that. He's a little bit target fixated here. He wants to go in for the kill. Now, this French battleship has slammed on his brakes here, but is it going to be enough? He gets shots off there, penetrates right through the bow, pretty much double citadels, and takes out our hero. The good news is the combination of fire from his friendly battleship as well as his own efforts setting those fires has taken out that enemy degrosser. And with that battleship gone, it just leaves 1 French battleship left there. And that battleship, well, he's reasonably low health, and he's all the way in one corner of the map with only seconds left in the game. There is pretty much nothing he can do at this point. Even if he manages to kill this friendly battleship through a detonation, a lucky hit, not going to be enough. The points difference is too great now. And with that, the battle is going to come to an end with a victory, thanks in large part to Lloyd for doing a lot of carrying there at the end, a lot of damage output, as well as this friendly battleship for going out and capturing the A cap point, a much-needed cap point. 200,000 damage done in that game, 10 citadels overall, and 34 planes shot down. Only 1 torpedo hit, though, a little bit disappointing, and no flooding scaws, but 29 secondary hits on a cruiser, pretty damn good. Confederate and high caliber earned in that game as well. Of course, something like that, you see top of the team for XP earned at 2100 base XP overall for that game. Anyway, that's it for today's video, folks. If you like the video, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment down below. If you'd like to get semi-regular channel news and updates, you can do so by liking and following me on Facebook. If you've got a replay like this one that you'd like to see featured on my channel, or you just like to send to me anyway, you can do so by sending it to my email. If you'd like to help support me and the channel, you can do so by becoming my supporter on Patreon. And if you'd like to watch me play various games live, albeit irregularly, you can do so by following me on Twitch. You can find the links for all of those in the video description down below. And as always, I'll see you next time. This is Captain Rye, signing off.